Welcome to Reno Radio. I'm your host, Naomi Findlay, Australia's renovation royalty. My podcast is all about real advice for renovating, designing beautiful spaces, tradie advice, and my weather to wonderful passion, where we interview amazing rural property owners who are turning their spaces from weathered to wonderful with great design and great renos. Creating beautiful spaces doesn't have to be hard. In fact, it can be one of the most rewarding things you ever do. So, join me and my impressive list of guests each week for plenty of feel-good, inspiring, and real advice. This is Reno Radio. Hello everybody and welcome to another episode of Reno Radio. Have you ever walked down your hallway and glanced at the walls with a big sigh in your heart that it was only a month ago or 6 months ago or a year ago that these looked beautiful and new and now no more? Well, our walls do take a pounding in our homes and in our work lives, and I have someone who knows a whole world about walls with us today, and it is the effervescent Therese from Gyprock. Welcome to the podcast, Therese.
Hello, Naomi. Thank you so much for having me on Reno Radio. I'm so excited to talk to you.
And you know what, listeners, this podcast came from the fact that every single time Therese and I get together and have a chat, I'm like, oh my gosh, we should be recording this conversation. This could totally be a podcast. So we've officially linked ourselves up and you guys get to hear one of our nutty, kind of design-orientated, highly technical, construction-orientated conversations all about walls.
I know. I mean, every conversation we have, I think because we're both Reno junkies.
Yes.
And building junkies. And so every time we talk, we find out something new and we just kind of go down a rabbit hole of all this information that you and I both know and need to share with everybody else.
Oh, it is so true. It is so true. And just like on other podcasts that have been, you know, more focused on renovation, construction materials and product, we always start with the point of form. And so today we're talking all about walls. And if we go down that track of form and design and trend, I want to get a bit of a, I guess, insight from you, what you're seeing right now. Because realistically, without you blushing, no one else can see you, I can. But Gyprock are kind of at the top of the game when it comes to walls. So if anyone's going to know the cutting edge, what's happening right here, right now, what all of the Gyprockers around the country are doing and installing, it's going to be you, realistically.
Absolutely. And do you know what? I mean, Gyprock has been around for such a long time. So CSR is one of the oldest companies in Australia from like 1855, and
Wow.
Gyprock, I know, so old, right?
Yeah.
And then Gyprock has been manufacturing walls, plasterboard in Australia since 1947. So such a long time, and that's why I guess it's the name that your grandparents built with. It's the name that your parents built with. It's so synonymous with walls. People think that it is called a Gyprock wall.
You know what? It was a really long time before I reckon I was in my 30s before I realised Gyprock wasn't Gyprock, that it was a wall.
That's right. So Gyprock is a really trusted brand. So it's almost like when we talk about Band-Aid. You know, a Band-Aid, people just know, they don't know it's sticking plaster, they just know Band-Aid.
It's so true. It wasn't until I went and lived overseas and I said Hoover, and I remember saying Band-Aid, and there was some other ridiculous Meadow-Lee. I said Meadow-Lee instead of margarine. And I'm like, okay, this is a brand, not an item. And it's exactly the same, isn't it?
Absolutely. And even within the trade, people call themselves Gyprockers. They're the people who put up the walls, they're Gyprockers. And so it's a really great trusted brand, and we're so proud of that. But it just means that you've got a locally made product that's being produced for our conditions, for our homes, by local Australian staff. Like it's a really good news story, and it's a really brilliant product. That's why it's been around for so long. It's the first choice for builders and architects, and it's because it's reliable and it's trustworthy.
There's a whole world of good juju that you were just saying, and a lot of this I as you can see often by, I know the listeners can't see it, but my facial expressions, I'm like, oh, all locally made. I didn't know that. I didn't know that it was all Australian made, which is great given the current situation we're in. That
absolutely,
we're not waiting for anything coming off a boat. Which is great.
No, so it's all locally made. There's factories all around Australia who are making Gyprock that we own. And then we've got our own stores. So CSR have 165 manufacturing facilities and distribution centres around Australia and New Zealand, but 165. So there's a lot. And that's where we really are. We are an Australian building company.
That's why I think you guys are in a really strong position to talk about things like trends that you guys are seeing. Obviously, many of our trends in Australia do come from overseas. It's very well known that interiors follows fashion, and fashion comes from Milan, and the biggest ceramic fairs are in Europe. But when it comes to Gyprock, our walls, where do you see mainly our trends coming from? And like when you guys are trend forecasting, where does that come from? And what are you guys seeing right now? So we are at the tail end of 2020. Like we are heading into the downward slope of 2020, which I don't want to talk about what that means to my age and where I'm sloping towards. But we're in the downward slope of that. So for 2021, what are you guys seeing now? What are you guys seeing may come in for 2021?
Absolutely. So you're totally right in terms of we work with these amazing architects and interior designers and builders who really take our very, humble building product and they bring it to life. Yeah. So we are seeing beautiful form, beautiful design, and this is where you really start to look at the vision. So designers like Thomas Hamill and Greg Natali have made their careers on actually taking almost the envelope of the room and making it full of life and texture and angles and difference. So it becomes this beautiful envelope that encases all the beautiful styling that is there. So we are seeing really great craftsmanship around angles, beautiful angles where you've got a sloping ceiling coming into a wall. I mean, we're seeing beautiful pattern ceilings, and that could be because you've got a 1920s house or a 30s house or a Federation style. And so the plaster is about the ornamental, so it can be about your beautiful ceiling rose or a huge ceiling panel that really defines and elevates the space. We're seeing a lot of curves, a lot. So we are seeing beautiful curved staircases. We are seeing gorgeous curved arches in doorways and arches in windows as well, which is really strong. But I think the ceiling is a thing that it was kind of a little bit forgotten, and now it is absolutely taking center stage because the ceiling then defines this beautiful volume of space. And it creates that wow feeling when you walk into a room. So you walk in and you feel the volume and you look up and you can see all the detail, and it just makes you feel like you're in a space that's really considered and really thought about.
Oh, you know, that word is such a beautiful word, considered. It's something that a lot of people in doing Carrington House, as you know, a lot of people often comment to me about the attention that my walls and my ceiling received. Like my walls and my ceiling have, in every room I've done here, have received more attention than any other element in the entire space. And it is about, often people will say, you know, why? And I'm like, well, there's a goodness and there's a comfort as a visitor in a room when you look around and everywhere your eye touches feels considered. There's just this comfort in it.
Absolutely. And it really is. It's, you know, it's setting the tone. It's setting the stage for what the rest of the house is going to feel like. So when you open a door and you have a beautiful hallway that has, you know, it could have moldings on the wall. It could be a beautiful Art Deco house that has the arch and has the corbels that, you know, that really bring that arch to life. It could be a coffered ceiling in a more modern home, a pattern ceiling. It really, so that's like the, you know, it's the first step. It's the first step on stage, you know, that you're going into and you're saying, what else is going to be here? What else is going to be revealed?
There's like that anticipation, isn't there? And do you find when you go into a really considered space, your eyes actually get excited to go to the next space? Because your eyes start to dance around more because you know that there's consideration and surprises everywhere.
Absolutely. And I think that's the thing. So, you know, when you've got that girlfriend that just when you see her, she's always got, you know, the bag and the shoes and the earrings, and always looks fully done, complete, you know,
but with ease. One of those things that you're like, you literally look beautifully natural, but you're beautifully, perfectly curated.
Absolutely. And so that's the detail, right? And so this is about your home and the detail within it. So it's like, it's your touch. It's showing that you've got your beautiful skirting boards, you know, so your shoes. And then you've got your walls, which is your beautiful, you know, trousers that are tailored and seamless. You've got your cornice, which is your beautiful belt that is really tying the outfit together, your ceiling, you know, it's got all the details. So when you work all those things together, it creates this complete outfit or this complete room. And so even when you take all the furniture out, you know, even when you take it, strip it right back, it's still a room that you walk into and you're like, wow, this is amazing. This is not a box, you know, this is something really special.
Yes, and that is, you know, it's interesting. One of my trades actually said to me the other day, this is really impressive. One of my trades said to me the other day, a lot of people ask me what you do. And I'm like, oh, I thought it'd be pretty obvious, but okay, no worries. That's a really good point of feedback for my marketing, isn't it? But what was really interesting, and this comes down to the whole box thing, and I think people are really starting to look at that. And I said, well, what do you tell them? Because I thought this will be telling, won't it? Depending on what he says. And he said, she takes what would be a flat, square box space and layers and layers and layers and layers upon that until the room welcomes and embraces you.
Oh, wow.
I know. And I'm like, really? Did you say that? Apparently. But I'd never thought or articulated, but that's exactly what you're talking about. You're talking about, we're not just creating boxes that then we're focused on the chair or we're focused on the cushion. We're creating rooms that invite and hug and pull you in. And one, you know, our biggest surface area, we were talking about this earlier, our biggest surface area is our walls. And so, and our ceiling, if you add that in, that's like serious. That's like, is it Mayfair on Monopoly?
Yeah, that's right.
Is that the one?
It is.
Park
It is.
Lane and Mayfair, the blue one.
Absolutely. And that's the thing, right? Like, so your walls and your ceiling cover the majority of your house. It is the most used building product, and it's probably the least considered building product in your home.
That's a really good point. Now, I know we've just been all, I would say, designery and girly a little, but my ripped jeans that I'm usually wearing and my paint-covered shirt that I'm usually wearing is like nagging at the side of me to go, great, we know it can all be beautiful, but let's talk a little bit of function. Let's talk a little bit of, because one of the things that I know in the last couple of years I've been made really aware of is that, I know I sound really old-fashioned, but, who was the man that used to say oils ain't oils? Who's that? It was an old man with white hair, and he was Castrol. Oils ain't oils. I've come to learn that Gyprock ain't Gyprock anymore.
That's right.
And it's only been in the past sort of 3 years that I've been really made aware, and I've educated myself about the differences and about the fact that I actually now don't leave those decisions up to my trade team. It's a conversation I have with my trade team about what we're putting on our walls, what we're creating our walls from.
Absolutely.
So when did all this happen, Therese? Like, was I asleep while all this happened?
Do you know what? I think because Gyprock is such an amazing trusted brand, that its most basic product is your favorite pair of jeans. Every day of the week, it is gets you out of trouble. It is your long lasting. It is your favorite pair of jeans. It's trustworthy. You can trust it every day of the week. But just like your favorite pair of jeans, some days, you might need a little black dress, or some days you might need a really crisp navy suit. Like there are different, every day of the week, your jeans are your favorite, but there's some instances where you need something a little more, right?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. And God, you feel good when you put that on.
Absolutely. And so this comes down to, just like when we talk about the windows in your room and the lighting in your room, it comes down to, what is this room's function? What is this room about? Who's going to be in this room? How many people? For how long? At what times of day?
How much?
And so it's so true. And so then when you think about your wall, does it need to be a different wall? Does it need to be a wall that can actually take the acoustics? You don't want unwanted sound traveling to the next room. Is it a room that is actually going to have your 3-year-old and your 5-year-old son hammering it out with their Tonka trucks? Is it going to have your 17-year-old on Call of Duty and with headphones on shouting at a wall?
Oh my gosh, at epic volume because they can't hear themselves.
That's right. And even in terms of your master bedroom, we spend so much energy around the beautiful bedding and the wardrobes and our gorgeous en-suites, and essentially you want to create a really private haven. That's your space with your partner, and let's just say you don't want noise coming in or out.
You're being so appropriate. I love it. I wish everyone could see you right now. You're the epitome of a lady. And I'm sitting here going, what Therese is meaning to say is, if you're going to create a haven for you and your partner, you certainly don't want everyone hearing what you get up to in there. That's effectively. And now she's blushing. But that's it. I 100% agree. Or even if some people are going, yeah, that doesn't go on for me. Even simple things like, I know the laundry in my house backs on to my 17-year-old's bedroom. And so I'm really conscious. I actually put him in there because he's a heavy sleeper and not my little ones, because it wasn't made with acoustic, conscious board.
Yes.
And so when that washing machine gets humming, it would totally keep my little boys awake.
Absolutely. And so there's I guess there's all different plasterboards, like there's all different walls for all different rooms. And so whether it's a moisture resistant plasterboard for your laundry, or you need a moisture resistant on the inside of your laundry, and then on your son's bedroom you've got like an acoustic one that actually is like a super check board that actually will, you know, take the sound. Yeah. You've got ones that are around impact. So how many times do your kids run up the hallway and throw their school bags against the wall? There's skateboards, there's trucks, there's, you know, all sorts of things that hit the walls. And you just want your wall, you don't want your walls to look like they're scruffy and weathered and, you know, a bit kind of damaged. And you're only 6 months into the house. You want a product, you want a wall that's just going to last, and for you to feel like when your guests walk into your beautiful hallway where you've created this inviting entrance, so you haven't got, you know, big dents and scrapes and scuff marks up the hall from all your kids' normal everyday living.
I think that's the thing, isn't it? That our houses, you know, I'm always talking about the fact that our houses live with us. You know, we live together and we grow together and we experience things together. And so it's so cool that products have started to evolve now, that our houses can tolerate our you know, madness that happens in our lives. Because, you know, as you know, I have 4 kids, and my 14, my 9 and my 7-year-old are all 100% guilty, and they do it with force. Every afternoon they walk in the front door and with force they lasso their school bag. They don't put it, they lasso, you know, the school bag across the hall onto the bench, and it gets stopped with a thud against the gyprock wall.
Absolutely. And I think even the evolution of, you know, like now we're in COVID. I mean, I never heard my husband on a work call, and now I'm like, how loud is he? So there's, you know, and then you've got homeschooling, and you've got, you know, we've got multi-generations in our house. And so everybody has to be able to live in comfort, you know, so there's a real functionality to what we have to create. And with, you know, you've got different ages, different stages, you've got these, you know, people in your home, and they need that. And so I don't think that's been any more evident than right now, when we've been spending so long, we've been working from home, we've been schooling at home, we've got noisy kids, we've got noisy grandparents, we've got, you know, all sorts of things happening in our house. And so now more than ever, people are going, oh my God, how noisy is that person?
It's so true. The amount, my poor husband in COVID, I had to put him out the back deck because I couldn't deal. I'm like, oh my gosh, and I'm one of the loudest people alive. But oh my gosh, you are so loud when you are on a call. So that's why I'm giggling away, because yes, I never noticed that before, but now everything is absolutely noticeable. Even things like when you're at home so much more often, you're like, I wish that door closed properly, because you are so noisy, and we're having to live in that space together. And I think, you know, we mentioned earlier, and I do think that this is just a natural progression. You know, if we look at the history of lighting and how it has evolved, you know, and we've gone from just having a fan light, or just having, you know, a bayonet in the middle of the room with a dusty fabric cover on it, to our lighting is one of the most considered things at construction stage now. You know, where are we going to switch? Where are we going to run it? Is there function? Is there function light? Is there mood light? Is there atmosphere light? Is it at the 3 layers? I think that the time has arrived, and it's been here for a little while, and it's really exciting that I'm finding that clients are really open to conversations about what is the function and how can your walls support you.
Absolutely. And you said it in terms of, it's right back at, you know, at planning stage, because it's one of those things. So just like, you know, underfloor heating, or just like there's other elements within the room, there's right back at that design stage. for you to have a better wall and long, like, so it feels good for a long time and has great benefits about it, that's like a couple of dollars a square metre type decision, you know. And then once you've built the house, you can't go back, like to go back and rip out all the walls, you're not going to do that. So it's kind of like underfloor heating. Like if you actually run all the you know, all the pipes or all the cables for the heating at that stage when you're doing your bathroom, it costs hundreds of dollars, like not that much in the scheme of your bathroom. And then every day when you walk on your beautiful warm tiles, you're like, wow, what a great decision.
It's kind of like a rag to riches story, isn't it? Where you're like, oh my gosh, like, so for underfloor heating, oh my gosh, it literally cost me a couple of $100 extra. But yet in the middle of winter, when you're walking on that floor, you're like, I'm a millionaire, you know.
Exactly. And that's what we're talking about, like the whole envelope of the room. So before you've done anything else, have you made these great decisions? And the whole thing, the thing about walls is that you don't know what you don't know. And so you don't ask because you didn't know that there was different options.
It is literally that, isn't it? And I think the big thing that I would love people to get out of this is, one, to ask questions about your walls, and two, do it right at the planning stage, because it does actually make a difference. So you obviously know, but I used SuperCheck in the last 2 rooms at Carrington House because it was really important for me. Anyone who knows me knows I'm a tomboy, knows I'm clumsy. You know, when I was a kid, and when microwaves first came out, yeah? So do you remember when microwaves first came out, Therese, or am I just really old?
No, we're about the same era.
Okay, so microwaves first came out, and my dad bought my mum one for her birthday, fatal flaw, bless him. And I am so heavy-handed, so clumsy, and such a tomboy, I broke it unwrapping it for her.
Like, right, okay.
So I was so
not impressed.
No. Well, Mum was, because she didn't want to go to the microwave for her birthday, Dad. But you know, anyone who knows me knows I'm super heavy-handed and I'm super clumsy and I'm really single-focused. And so I used the SuperCheck on the rooms 3 and 4 here at Carrington House. And I had to have that conversation with my trades at construction time, because it had a different weight, it had a different thickness, it had different qualities. We needed to do different things. And when I say different, I don't mean that it cost me extra thousands to do it. Like, it was just that it had to be done in a different way to suit that product. And so I think the big things is, one, ask the question, and two, like if I had my way again, I would totally have a more durable board in my children's bedrooms.
Yes.
Like 100%.
Yeah. I mean, you think how many basketballs and, you know, kids just throwing balls against walls, and oh my gosh, it happens all the time. And I think you're right in terms of, this is a really basic material, right? Like it's dollars a square meter. Like, it's not a expensive product. And I think about years ago when I did a build and I, you know, invested a heap, and I knew the millimeter profile of my, you know, architraves. I knew the province that the light came from in Italy. Yeah. I knew every detail, how, you know, what the width of the vein in the bench top was going to be. Like, I knew every detail. And then I moved into my house and I could, you know, hear the toilet flush in the next room. And I'm like, why can I hear that? Why can I hear that? And then I would hear my kids, you know, running up and down the hallway upstairs. And I'm like, why can I hear that? What did I not think of? What question did I not ask? How am I in this situation and I'm not ready for it? So it's almost that really, and you can't go back. So having an extra sheet of board. So like, I'm designing another house at the moment, and I'm making sure that I've actually got double board in going through to my master, when my ensuite. And so there is no chance that I'm hearing any noises from that ensuite whatsoever. So when my husband gets up at 4:30 to go rowing, I'm not getting woken up. So So there's just these little things that right back at design stage to talk to your builder about, do you know what, I want a double thickness wall, or I want to make sure that I'm using that wall that I can't hear the toilet flush, or I want to use that wall in my kid's bedroom that I'm not going to have the, you know, they're not going to put the door handle into the wall or the basketball into the wall, or you know, I'm not going to hear the laundry. I'm not going to hear the washing machine, you know, doing the spin cycle and banging against the wall and waking up my, you know, teenager. Like, so they're just really simple conversations with your builder to say, hey, can we just have a chat about my walls? And I just want to make sure I'm using the right product. So simple.
It is. I was about to say, what would be if you could, if all of that, because that is such a beautiful story, and sad, but beautiful story about how invested you were in your last build. And then when you went, oh my gosh, I can hear my husband going to the toilet in the ensuite, and I can hear the toilet flushing, and I can hear all these things. I guess the first one you already just said. What I was going to say, what would be the three things you'd want to gift people if you could give them a parcel of knowledge that would mean they weren't in that position? And you just said one, which was so eloquent, simple, and beautiful. Hey, can I have a conversation about my walls?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's the thing, just like you know, like you probably wouldn't front up to your plumber and say, hey, can I have a conversation about what pipe you're using, you know, under the ground, running my pipes? Like, I think people have just not thought about it. So they just haven't had a conversation with their builder. They didn't know that they needed to.
Yeah.
And so just like, as you're saying, now you've got lighting plans that happen. You've got, you know, even things like the air conditioning. Like if you don't plan the air conditioning, I can bet you that you're going to have a duct somewhere you don't want it to, and you're going to have a corner of your room taken out because some duct couldn't go where it needed to go. Or you're going to need a bulkhead above something because, you know, like it's the detail that you haven't considered.
Absolutely.
So I think that, you know, the first thing would be about just, you know, like what is this room's function, and talking to your builder about, hey, can I just have a conversation about, you know, the wall and how I can make sure that I'm not going to have unwanted noise. And of course, that's your wall, and insulation plays also, you know, a really big part in this. So I mean, 100% I would go for, you know, the better insulation, because that is going to affect your noise. It's also going to affect your heating and cooling. Like, it's a no-brainer. Again, it's one of those building products that really, in the scheme of your build, is a few dollars. It's nothing.
Literally.
It's nothing. And so to actually talk about having a better envelope, a better structure in the beginning that is actually going to be a really comfortable, enjoyable room to be in, if you make a great decision, you will actually never notice what a great decision. You'll actually be in your room and you won't hear the noise and you won't have the dings, and so you actually won't consider that decision too much. Or if you don't, you'll be in that room with the dings, with the noise, and go, why didn't I pay the extra couple of $100 and not have this problem?
And you know what the biggest lesson here is? You could, but you wouldn't go back.
Yeah.
You can, but you wouldn't. It'd be like a rebuild.
Yes.
So it is a decision right at that early stage. You know,
yes.
With an architect, hey, when we get to the right time, can we talk about my walls? If you're working with a designer, hey, when we get to the right time, can we talk about my walls? It's important to me. And it can be that simple, that it's on the radar, it's on the agenda with your team, with your designer, with your supplier, with your builder, whomever it might be. Hey, I just want to talk about my walls.
Yep, and that's it. And that is it. That's as simple and as complicated as it is. Builders know they're different type of walls.
Oh my God, yes.
And so they're happy to actually give you a better wall. For them, it's a no-brainer, because that means that they're not coming back after your 13-week inspection, and there's no problems there. They're going to have a better experience. They are going to have a better build. So their end product is a better product. So builders are completely loving this conversation. but it's just that nobody had kind of asked the question before. So so I would say, in terms of what, you know, the three things that I would say is definitely have a chat to your builder first and foremost. Even before that, as I said, the envelope of your room, like have a chat to your interior designer or your architect or even your drafty, you know, your builder, and kind of go, hey, what can we do there? Like, could I put in I saw Burleigh Beach House on Instagram had actually done, I'll call it a recess or a niche, but it was big, and it became their mud room, but it was actually curved and it had cushions on it, and so it became the seat when you walked in the house that you actually, you know, took off your shoes and put them underneath. And so that's just a wall, and basically they put, you know, they've recessed it a little bit, put a niche in it, and now it's a feature.
Yeah, absolutely.
Now, in terms of the cost of that, negligible, almost nothing. Your chippy's what, $50 an hour, couple of hours, you're done.
I love
so have a chat and think about what are the little differences where you can take your home from, you know, a bit bland to beautiful, to really detailed and considered and exciting and different from the Joneses, and where people kind of go, wow, she's clever, like, wow, that's thought through, you know, that's got detail, and it allows you to create that beautiful styling around it. So
Absolutely.
So then you've got the niche where you can have the seat cushions, and you can have some detail on the back wall. You can have your beautiful lights that are framing it to create those beautiful washes of light on the wall. So these aren't big costs in terms of your building. These are just the little details that will take pretty basic function into wow.
And you know what? I think you've just summed that up really well, and our conversation up really well, that these aren't big costs, but they're big decisions with big results, which I think is a win. You know, when you can make a decision purely about aesthetic and form and function without being hindered, because so many times decisions like that in the building process come with the nag in the back of your head of, oh, can I afford it? Oh, I'd love that, but can I afford it? This is actually one of those decisions that you can truly like expand your brain, you know, and think about form and function in the space without having that nagging kind of woodpecker in the back of your head going, don't do it, you can't afford it. So it's a beautiful decision that doesn't come with that headache.
Absolutely. Or at least have the conversation. I mean, from a budget, we've all got budgets, but it's not, you're not talking thousands and thousands. You're talking, you know, like a small things that can make a very big difference, you know, different corners that will actually create this beautiful entrance, you know, like small decisions that the building products aren't that much difference in price. So it's actually just choosing a slightly different product that will just give you that incredible detail, that wow factor.
I love it. I love it. Yeah. I love talking to you, Therese.
I know. And probably the last thing I'd say is the third thing would be like how you feel, you know. So the feeling that you get when you walk into a beautiful home, the feeling that you get when we cuddled up with your kids in bed and you've got this beautiful, secure, you know, really well thought through house where all the rooms function. The feeling that you get that you're like, you know, do you know how much I would pay to keep my, you know, 2-year-old asleep at 2:00 in the morning? And
a lot of money. I would actually fortune for that.
Exactly right. Like, so these are all the things that, you know, like how much would you, you know, like at 2:00 in the morning, how much would you pay for to keep your baby asleep? Like these are things that you really want to feel like you've made great decisions and be really proud of that. Like to actually
go, I'm clever.
Yeah, go, do you know what? Like I did something that not everybody did. And do you know what? And now I have this elevated experience. I have this home that feels better, is welcoming, is considered, is more comfortable to live in. And you know what? I didn't spend that much more money. I just actually had a conversation. I just had that insight, and I asked the question, and how clever am I now?
I love it. Everyone loves to be clever every now and then, Therese. Seriously, every now and then. And it's a moment for those that don't have children and can't relate to the sleeping baby. What about the moment of, it's exactly the same as when you drop your iPhone and it lands face down, right? And you take a big deep breath before you turn it over and see if you smash the screen. So for me, the equivalent is when I think I'm stronger and more clever than I am, and I overload with bags and groceries, and at the same time in the hallway squeeze past someone as all of the bags hit the walls, and I stand at the end of the hall and I take a deep breath before I turn around to see what damage I've done. There's even that moment, knowing that you've only just painted, you've only just put them in, or they're only 3 years old, or you got a massive insurance bill for something and you wouldn't have the money to repair it if you did it. So it's that, even that moment of just knowing that your house has got your back. You don't have to treat it like a princess.
Yeah, absolutely. And so again, just these small decisions that have such a big impact.
Absolutely. I love it. Thank you so much for being with us today, Therese. I am certain that we are going to have more wall conversations, because I didn't even get any tech specs out of you. Seriously, this was, every now and then I do love a little bit of tech spec conversation. So we might have to get you back in the coming months, and we can actually start to unfold some of the tech behind this, because more and more people are wanting to know what's happening, where it's from, what they're getting, how it's going to benefit them. So are you cool for that if we come back another time?
I would love that. I would absolutely love that. Any opportunity to have a chat with you, I'm totally in.
Oh my gosh. We need to do a video podcast somehow one day, and everyone can see our outrageous facial expressions. So thank you so much for being with us today. And guys, if you want to get some inspiration, I would recommend you head across to Gyprock's Insta page. You have some beautiful stuff. So where can they find that, Therese?
Absolutely. So if you want to see all the beautiful detail, then head over to Gyprock Living. And that is for all our homeowners to see great projects, see what people are doing, get some inspiration and find out the information. And of course, like from a builder perspective, on just Gyprock, gyprock.com.au, that's where all the text and specs and all the detail and sizes and millimeters and decibels and everything's on that page. But on Gyprock Living is where you will find all the beautiful inspiration.
That is amazing. And guys, I think we can wrap this up in saying that walls aren't walls like they used to be. They can be so much more. So the one thing that I'd love for everyone to take from this conversation with the amazing Therese is ask the question, can I have a conversation about my walls? And I will catch you next time on Reno Radio. Thanks for joining me today, guys, on Reno Radio. It has been a blast. I would love it if you subscribed so you never missed a beat of this podcast. And naturally, let me know what you think. I love to hear everyone's feedback and reviews. If you'd like to know more about all the services and content that we produce at naomifindlay.com, then head on over to naomifindlay.com. You can also keep an eye on what I'm up to on my Instagram. You can find me there at Naomi Findlay Official. Until next time, team, enjoy.